purpose of my life? And that is what is important. All the achins mentioned the same thing. Exams come and go. We have to give our best, and no doubt about it. But exams don't define your life. Exams do not define the purpose of your life. Yes, we need to study well. We need to give our best. But there's a greater purpose in life, and I want to focus on that. All right, so let's get straight into it. And let me start by asking you this question. I mean, some of you might be asking me, why would you want to ask that? But anybody knows what car is this? You can just message in the chat box and just let me know if you are kind of, because in India, not many people know this car. It's not launched in India. So I'm just quickly checking with you. Have you seen this car, and do you know what car it is? If you do, please mention in the chat box. Tesla, no. Okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so many of them. All right. You can MG. No, it's not MG. I think a lot of people got it right. Normally, when I ask this question to people in India, they don't know this car. Uh, yeah, all right, good. Thank you. I think most of you got it right. It's the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo. It's not very popular here in India, and I'm sure it's not too popular in Dubai either. But nevertheless, the reason why I wanted to kind of share this car with you is because I want to share a story regarding the Alfa Romeo with you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have enough answers. Now I'll get into the talk. So Alfa Romeo, a quick interesting story. A couple of years back, I think around 9 years back, when I traveled to Germany on work. So I was working for Honeywell during that time, and I traveled to Germany to one of our factories, and I landed in Germany. And normally, what I do is I take a taxi and I go to the hotel, and after that I go to the factory. But this time, my colleague, his name is Roman, he's Austrian, and he told me, I'll come and pick you up. And he came and he picked me up from the airport. And as I got into his car, it was very interesting. I put on my seat belt, and as soon as he got he had an Alfa Romeo, all right? This is the car that he was driving. So he had an Alfa Romeo, and as soon as he got out of the driveway, uh, I saw the speedometer. As soon as he got out of it, I saw the speedometer hit around 80, 90 kilometers per an hour, right? Quickly, even before I knew, I just put the seatbelt, and then I saw it hit around 80, 90. And the moment he got out of the airport, within the next maybe half a minute or so, I saw the needle move to around 140, 150, that range. So I was not very comfortable. I was, sitting glued to my seat. And even as he was talking to me, um, Roman was talking to me and asking me how things were in India. Even while he was talking to me, the speedometer kept moving up. And then I saw around 150, 160 in another 30 seconds. And then I told Roman, relax, okay? I've got one wife and I've got two kids. So I am not in a hurry to get anywhere. I love my life. I love my wife. Just chill. We can go slow. All right. There is no hurry at all. But even while I was talking to him and telling him, the speedometer kept moving forward. Then I tapped Roman on the hand and I told him again, Roman, I love my wife. I want to go back to my home. Right. And this guy just kept driving. And then I realized he was a car enthusiast, and he was a speed driver apparently. And another maybe 2 or 3 minutes, we entered the autobahn. Autobahn is the highway, the German highways where there's no speed limit. You can just rip at any speed, right? And and my goodness, this guy I wasn't sure, was he flying or was he driving? And he was so casually talking to me, and I was holding on for dear life and praying that I would somehow reach my hotel without any problem. And the only response I got from Roman, every time I was telling him, hey, why don't you slow down a bit, I'm not in a hurry, without responding to that answer, he just continued talking. And basically, what he wanted to try to tell me is this: Cherian, I want you to know this. I bought the Alfa Romeo, and the Alfa Romeo has a speed capacity of going to around, I think, 230 or 240 kilometers per hour, right? And I bought this particular car so that I can drive it to its full potential. I did not buy this car so that I can go on third gear so that you can be happy and you can be smiling. And primarily, the message that Roman was trying to give me is this: I bought a car which has a high capacity and I want to drive it as fast as I can. But then, looking into our own lives, let me ask you this question: God would have created you and me for a 200 miles per hour or 250 miles per hour. But you know what we do usually? We'll tell God, God, that's not needed. We will go at around 80, 90, at the max 100. Okay, if people push us, maybe around 110. And all this while, God is looking at you and me and He's saying, hey, I created you for 250. Why limit yourself to 100? And this is my topic for today. You and I are created for excellence. We are created for excellence. And the only person who can come in the way of your excellence and my excellence is me, and it's you. All right. So that's the only thing that can come in the way of your excellence and my excellence. Before we get into it, for all you students, you just finished your eighth standard. If of course, if you know your eighth standard biology, let me just give you a quick recap of what you studied in eighth biology. Do you know that the human brain uh, travels, messages travel at around 200 miles an hour? In case you didn't know, did you know that the human being's DNA, if were uncoiled, would stretch 10 billion miles? That is from Earth to Pluto and back. That's how long the DNA in one body, in my body, would stretch. Let me ask you, do you know that just like your unique thumbprint, all of you who have smartphones, you use your thumbprint to unlock your phone. Do you know that your tongue has a unique thumbprint? Did you know that? I mean, just in case you didn't. So next phone, iPhone 12 is going to have like a tongue print. You're going to like lick your iPhone to unlock it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So, but I'm just saying that's how unique your tongue is. Your tongue print is so unique. Nobody else has a tongue like yours. During your lifetime, do you know that you produce enough saliva to fill 2 swimming pools? Just your information, okay? All right. If you had your dinner, then it's okay. But otherwise, you have enough and more saliva in your mouth that you produce in a lifetime that can fill 2 swimming pools. Do you know which the strongest muscle of your body is? Do you know that? In case, I mean, you guys are going to write your trigonometry and calculus and integration and all of that. Let me ask you a simple question. Do you know which is the strongest muscle in your body? Okay, let me see your answers quickly. Hey, not bad. Hey, not bad. Not bad. Okay, all right. Trevor and Ruth and Ria, all of you got. You Googled it or what? Or you knew it? Okay, you knew it. All right. The strongest muscle in your body is the tongue, if you didn't know that. But have you ever seen anybody go and do a pull up on the tongue in the gymnasium? Have you ever seen? I've never seen anybody do pull ups on the tongue. Never. But the strongest muscle in your body is the tongue. Let me ask you one more thing. Let me also tell you one more thing. It is impossible to kill yourself by choking yourself with your hands. Okay, if you don't, I mean, don't go and try it, but I'm just telling you. All right, you and I cannot choke ourselves with our own hands to death. What does it mean? What does it mean? You are not created to somehow hide behind this thing called death or suicide, or that's not what you and I were created for. And that is why the Bible says, I praise you, God, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Do you know that even as you walk, you need to understand this, that you are created fearfully and wonderfully by Almighty God. You're not just some ordinary person. You're not just a replica of another person in another continent. You are so unique. You are so unique. There's no one like you. So if you want to be happy before your exams, let me tell you one thing. Okay. There is no one like you. Okay. There's no one like me. And that gives me enough happiness, right? There is no, I mean, you can be smarter, you can be wiser, you can be more talented, but you are not me, because I am me and you are you. And you and I, there is absolutely nothing by which I can replicate myself. That is how uniquely God created me and you. Enne pole nyan matram. Can you just imagine? എന്നെ പോലെ ഞാൻ മാത്രം. I don't have to try to look like somebody else. I don't have to compete with somebody else because God created me uniquely. But let me tell you, first we need to be our best. Yes, we are unique. And then we will be first. Like Achan said, everybody cannot be first. Everybody who runs a race cannot be first. Everyone who writes an exam cannot be first rank. But we can be our best. I can do my best. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to share with you on excellence in life. And this is going to span every area of our life, not just exams. Exams, let it be in one corner. But let me tell you what our attitude in life should be. And I want to read this verse for you in from Daniel chapter 6. It's on the screen. You can just go with me on it. And this is what Daniel chapter 6 says. Then this Daniel became distinguished among all the other high officials and satraps because an excellent spirit was in him. You know, if you look at Daniel, Daniel rose to the top, right? And you know what his qualifications were? The Bible says that there was one quality about him, and that one quality was that he had an excellent spirit. And that's what I'm going to talk about with you today. What does it mean to be excellence? But before we talk about excellence, let me ask you, do you know the background of Daniel? Let me tell you his background. We as young people, we know how to make excuses, right? We like to blame the COVID. We like to blame every situation around us. But let me tell you, look at Daniel's background. Daniel came as a slave. Okay. He came into Babylon as a slave. Nothing more than that. He came as a slave. അടിമയായിട്ടാണ് വന്നത്. Okay. Number two, he spoke a different language. He did not speak the language of Babylon. He spoke a totally different language. Number two. Again, second disadvantage. Third disadvantage, he came from a different culture. His culture was extremely different from the culture of Babylon. He had different food habits. He couldn't have the food and the wine that the Babylonians had. He had different food habits. Let me also tell you, his educational qualifications were different. What Babylon required is not what he had. But let me tell you, in spite of all these disadvantages, he rises to the top. He rises to the top. He becomes the number two man. And in the absence of the king, he was the king. And what do you think qualified him to become the prime minister of Babylon? And the verse in chapter 6 gives you only one hint, and it says, Daniel had an excellent spirit. Young, young friends, listen to me carefully. You know, you might have a lot of disadvantages. A lot of disadvantages. You can look at your friend and say, if my dad was like his dad, and if I had the kind of stuff that he had, and if I had the facilities that he has, and if I was studying in the school that he's studying or she is studying, you can keep on drawing every comparison that you want to just to justify your disadvantage. But let me tell you, Daniel was a person who had all sorts of disadvantages. Just look at it. He had disadvantages on every front. Came as a slave. I mean, who would even look at a slave? Come on. He came as a slave, spoke a different language, came from a different culture, ate different food, and he had different educational qualifications. If you ask me, he was a person who was unqualified to the core. There was nothing in him that qualified, but yet he rises to the top, and the Bible says the only reason behind it is that he had an excellent spirit. Of course, the Lord was with him, which we will talk about later. But we see in Daniel chapter 6 one qualification of Daniel, which is excellence. And I want to tell you, dear friends, okay, you might have a lot of disadvantages on your side, which you might use as excuses. You can always wish that you were born in a different family. You can always wish that you were born in a different culture. But let me tell you this, God knows why you are where you are. And it doesn't matter what backgrounds you come from. If you have an excellent spirit, if you have an excellent spirit, you and I can be where God wants you to be, you and me to be. And nothing can come against it. But what is the excellent spirit? Before we get into an excellent spirit. Let me give and share with you some of the enemies of excellence. And this is applicable to any person of any age, right? This has got nothing to do with young people alone or examination alone. You can use this in any walk of your life. Number one enemy of excellence is a sense of entitlement. Is a sense of entitlement. What do you mean by a sense of entitlement? In Malayalam, we say അവകാശബോധം അല്ലേ? എനിക്ക് ഞാൻ അത് അർഹിക്കുന്നു. ഞാൻ ഒരു അർഹതാബോധം എന്ന് പറയത്തില്ലേ? How do we see it? I have a name. I deserve it because of who I am. Who I am. Or age. Haven't we seen people come and say, I have been in this organization for 35 years. I should be the next leader. അല്ലേ? എൻ്റെ പ്രായം കാരണം നിങ്ങൾ എനിക്ക് ആ ജോബ് പൊസിഷൻ തരണം. People think that they are eligible because of age. Some people are so egoistic. They say, I know best. I know. Let me tell you, dear friends, our past progress does not guarantee future success. Okay? Just because you were good in your fifth standard doesn't guarantee you that you will be great in 10th standard. I'll give you a live example. Just check in your class, right? In your own class. Just look at the people who are first rank holders when they were in LKG and UKG. LKG and UKG. Now you are in your 10th and 12th. Are they still the first rank holders? At least when I grew up, we had so many people who were first rank holders, during the different stages, first, second, and third standard. But the moment we came to 10th standard, they were like 15th rank and 20th rank. And so what does it mean? It means my past success does not guarantee my future success. Just because I got it sometime earlier doesn't mean that I'm eligible to it later on. You should not have a sense of entitlement at all. Don't think that because of whatever virtue you are going to get it. Biggest enemy of excellence is an sense of entitlement. I deserve it. And let me tell you, Daniel was an outsider. He had none of these. He did not have past experience. He didn't have a name. He couldn't say, oh, I belong to this family, so you need to give me the position. He didn't have a pedigree to boast about. Nobody even knew where he came from, right? In that scene, Daniel rises to the top. Why? Because he said, I'm not going to blame my circumstances. I'm not going to say, if only I had this. I am going to do what I can to the best of my ability. And God raises him to the top. The second thing I want to share with you is, many of us have an attitude of saying it's not my job. Okay, I tell my son, okay, every day, or my daughter, why don't you pick that book and keep it back? And you know what the answer is immediately? But I did not take it. Mama only took it. And I asked my daughter, hey, why don't you take it? And you know what she tells me? I did not take that book. Neelu took that book. So basically what they are trying to tell me is this: it's not my job. It's not my job. If you can see on the screen, what do you see on the screen? Okay. A person was given a job to draw the tracks in the middle of the road. Okay. A person was given the job to draw tracks in the middle of the road. And he did a brilliant job, didn't he? Yes or no? Why are you smiling? I mean, give me an answer. Did he do a good job or not? Yeah, he did a brilliant job. He drew perfect 2 lines. And then after the job was done, someone realized that there was a rat that was dead in the middle of the road. Okay. And he very comfortably drew the line over the rat. So the contractor came and asked him, hey, why did you draw over the rat? You should have taken it out. And what was his reply? That's not my job. That is not my job. Young friends, listen to me carefully. You want to do and you want to have a spirit of excellence. You should be willing to go the extra mile. Don't tell yourself, oh, this is not my job. Oh, this is not for my age. Oh, I'm too young. This is not for me. Every opportunity that you get to go the extra mile. You might not be that talented. You might not be that gifted. Maybe you might not have the IQ levels that another person has. But if you are willing to go the extra mile, let me tell you, there is a God who honors the person who goes the extra mile. Don't find the excuse of saying it's not my job. Go the extra mile. I call it the Rebecca principle. You know, the blessing that Rebecca got came only because she was willing to go the extra mile. Wasn't she? You know the story. Eliezer comes and asks Rebecca, "Can you give me some water to drink?" And what does she reply? She says, "I will not only give you water, but I will also give water to your camels." And that is a principle that God honors. Do not say it's not my job, it's not my time, it's not my age. Say, Lord, if you want me to go the extra mile, I'm willing to do that extra mile. I'm willing to put that extra effort. I'm willing to go sit up that extra hour to study. I'm willing to wake up an hour early, so that I can spend my time studying, preparing myself in your word. Anything that you do, if you're willing to go the extra mile, let me tell you, God honors the person who goes the extra mile. Don't relax in the sense of eligibility. Okay, because of this, I deserve it. The world owes you nothing. The world owes you nothing, young people. Understand that. The world owes you absolutely nothing. Don't have the spirit of eligibility. I deserve it. That attitude won't work. But be willing to go the extra mile. And with that, God will take you to the top. The second enemy of excellence is destructive habits. Destructive habits. And this is something that can affect anyone at any age. Okay. I want you to remember this statement. Learn it by heart. Learn it by heart. First, we form habits, then they form us. Learn it by heart. Write it in your notebook. Write it in your heart. But learn this, and I want you to meditate on this every day. First, we form habits, then they form us. We heard during the quiz, we came across a lot of well accomplished people. None of them became superstars overnight. They formed habits that formed them later. One of the biggest enemies of excellence is the fact that people get into destructive habits and they're not able to come out. And at your age, yes, you need to focus on your exam. Yes, you need to do well. But the best thing you can do yourself is to form good habits. During this age, if you can invest in yourselves to have the best habits formed, I will tell you, it will give you returns. It will pay you heavily in the not just for your exams, but in the next years to come, in the next decades. It will give you super returns if you can just bother to form the right habits. But let me tell you, if you are not forming good habits and you are forming those destructive habits during this time, those habits will form you later on. you know we are involved in young youth ministry, and every now and then we get a call from a teenager who calls and says, "Acha, I want to break this habit. I'm not able to. I want to break this habit. I'm not able to." And we get these calls every single meeting we have. And then I ask them, "How did you get into this habit?" And they tell us, when they were a teenager, when they were a youngster, they started experimenting with some of these things. And first they formed the habit, and now the habit is forming them. They can't get over it. We talk to so many young people who can't get off their mobile phone. We had this young teenager who was 17 years old, and he was not able to talk to people. He was not able to communicate with people. I was sitting in front of him and he wouldn't look me in the eye. He's looking down. And finally I asked him, "What is your problem?" He wouldn't. And I realized that he was so addicted to the virtual world that he can't communicate in reality. He can't have conversations with real people anymore. He can't talk to his parents properly. And then finally, they took his mobile phone and he went without food for 3 days in protest. Can you imagine? He went for 3 days without food. He went to school and came back without eating a single morsel. What am I trying to say? First, you form the habit, then the habit forms you. Then the habit forms you. Who you are in the dark is who you really are. Maybe it's a habit that nobody sees, right? Nobody is able to figure out. But let me tell you, you might form that habit right now. Later on, that habit will form you. How many of us know Lance Armstrong? Lance Armstrong, He was a phenomenon, right? When I was in college, or maybe before college, he was a big guy, very famous guy. And we had these big yellow bands which read "Live Strong." That was a foundation that Lance Armstrong founded. He was a cancer survivor. He won the Tour de France, I think, I don't know, 7 8 times. Gold medalist Olympics couple of times. And finally, one fine morning, I look at the paper and I realize that Lance Armstrong lost all his medals overnight. All the successes that he had built over years vanished overnight. Why? Because they realized that he was addicted to drugs. He was addicted to drugs. And if you ask Lance Armstrong, you know what he would say? First, I formed the habit, and after that, the habit formed me. I wanted to say no to it, but I couldn't say no to it anymore. How many of us know Tiger Woods? Anybody knows Tiger Woods? I mean, he's not a big name now, but he was a big name when he was the most um, endorsed sports person in the world. Okay. He made the maximum amount of money on sports endorsements. All right. Nike had endorsed him. There was so many brands who endorsed him. He used to make multiple millions of dollars just on endorsements. And you know what happened to Tiger Woods? He was seed number one for multiple seasons for golf. And then one fine morning, the Tiger Woods couldn't focus anymore. He couldn't play anymore. His life, his career, everything was destroyed. And then a reporter interviewed him and asked him, Tiger, what happened? What happened? And then Tiger comes out of the closet and he says, I had a woman problem. I couldn't handle my emotions when it came to women. And first, he had a habit which he thought he could control. And after that, the habit started controlling him. And seed number one became seed number, I don't know, when I checked a couple of years back, he was 500. Of course, after that, he came up. But what am I trying to tell you, young friends? You might be forming a habit which nobody knows about, but that habit will form you later. And this little thing that you think you have under control, it'll control you, and you might not be able to come out of it. The second enemy of habits, of excellence, are destructive habits. How many of you know who's on this picture? Chat box, quickly. Anybody? Quickly. All right. Thanks, Neha. That's Michael Phelps. That's Michael Phelps. Anybody knows how many gold medals or how many Olympic medals Michael Phelps won? Okay. He was into swimming. 52, 22, 48. Okay, I get a lot of numbers, but 54, not 54, 22, 10, 104. No, no way. 33. Okay, never mind. I am given to understand it's around 24 Olympic medals that he got. Maybe more, I really don't know, but it's around 24 Olympic medals. I mean, just imagine a person of this stature, right? Person of this stature, 24 Olympic medals, right? I mean, if you and I could win one school medal, we would walk around as if we are the, I mean, world's best and the best thing that happened to the one medal. This guy, 24 Olympic medals. Can I ask you something? You would have thought that he would have, you know, lived his life. He might be at the peak of his success. At the peak of his success, he got into substance abuse, which is drug abuse, and depression. Now, can I ask you? You are thinking about how you'll pass your examination, right? That's your biggest concern, right? Or maybe not pass, maybe you want to get your distinction or your 90% or whatever it is, or your engineering. Can you imagine a guy who had everything, 24 gold medals, living his life, money, fame, everything, and he was an addict to substance abuse and depression? What do you think would have caused this? What do you think would have caused this? I'll give you another example. I'll give you another example. How many of you know Michael Jackson? I mean, I'm sure that you're not a big fan of Michael Jackson. My generation was a big fan of Michael Jackson, right? I mean, I'm a little senior than many of you, but we grew up thinking that Michael Jackson was the world's biggest entertainer. Michael Jackson passed away recently. Y'all are big fans of, I don't know what it is. I mean, who are the big names nowadays? uh, who Bruno Mars, or I don't know. I mean, they're nothing in comparison to Michael Jackson. All right, just understand that he was the biggest entertainer that ever lived. That was Michael Jackson. Nobody could sing like him. Nobody could dance like him. Nobody made money like him. And can I ask you this question? What do you think was his last words when he was breathing his last breath? What was his last words? His famous last words. Michael Jackson's doctor tells us that his last words was this: more milk. More milk. What do you think? He had a liking towards milk, so he was asking for milk? That is not what it meant. More milk. Milk was the term that he used for propofol, a drug that is used for anesthesia. Propofol. Okay? It's a drug that was. Michael Jackson was addicted to propofol, and even while he's drawing his last breath, the only thing he can ask his doctor is, "Doctor, give me more milk. I want another shot of propofol." Now, can I ask you this question? What is it that Michael Jackson lacked? You think you just want to somehow manage your exam, and you want to somehow get a job, and then once you get a job, you want to make some money. Can I ask you, Michael Jackson made a million times of what you could have ever imagined you could make in your lifetime. That's the money he made. And why is he crying out for more milk? You know why? I'll tell you this. I'll I'll give you the same words of Michael Phelps. Okay, this is what Michael Phelps said. This is what he said. Okay, this is not my words. This is Michael Phelps' words. He said, "Everything else leaves us empty when we don't have Jesus. Everything else leaves us empty when we don't have Jesus." Young friends, let me tell you, you might think that somehow getting some good marks in your exam is all that life is all about. You might think that getting a job, getting a good seat in a college is what matters. You might think that once you get a job, building a family and building a great house is what matters. But I can tell you something: you can chase after every single dream that you want to, and you will end up feeling empty. In the language of Michael Phelps, everything else leaves us empty when we don't have Jesus. So let me tell you, today, your challenge is not somehow to pass the exam. The challenge is to pursue a spirit of excellence. And that is what I would like to lay before you. Exams will come and exams will go. When I wrote my exam a couple of years back, I thought that that was the end of the world. We write the exam, and if we get like a distinction, that's it. And then I realized that's only the beginning of all the exams that are going to happen in life. That was just the beginning, right? And we just make it such a big deal. Let me tell you, that's not a big deal. But what is important is that we build a culture of excellence. Let me also encourage you by saying this. This is what Michael Phelps said. After he got into substance abuse, he said, "When we fail, we keep going." And he says, "Your past does not define your future. Jesus defines your future. Your past does not define your future. Jesus defines your future." What am I trying to tell you, young people? Maybe you don't have a great track record, right? You don't have like too many successes in your past that you have to showcase. Maybe you flopped big time in the past. Maybe you've not prepared enough. Maybe you failed. Maybe you think your life is a wreck. Maybe there are a couple of guys in this group who think that your life is over. There's absolutely no point living. That is the place where Michael Phelps was. That's the place where Michael Jackson was. But you know what Michael Phelps did? He realized that he can find a future in Christ. And that is where he comes and he surrenders his life to Christ, and he comes back to the Olympics and he wins a couple of medals again. All right. And that's the important thing that I want to share with you tonight. Your past does not define you. If you would commit your life to Christ, he will define your future. Your past can be anything. It can be anything. Let me tell you, you would have made a million mistakes, but it doesn't matter. With Jesus, that's why, the Bible says, if any man is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone. Behold, the new has come. So let me motivate you. Let me motivate you, not for just for your exams, but let me motivate you for life. You can start a brand new leaf, a brand new chapter with Jesus, and Jesus can give you an exciting ride of your life. Number two, enemies of excellence. Number three, sorry, important, bad time management. bad time management. You know, all of us on this group, all of on this group, we are around, I don't know, 230 or whatever it is on this group. Let me ask you this question. We all differ in so many things, right? We might have different bank balances, or our parents might have different bank balances. We might drive different cars. We might be having different education. We might look different. We might live in different areas of Dubai. But let me tell you, there is one thing that is common, and that is we all have 24 hours. That is a common denominator. We all have the same time. You might have more money, you might have a bigger car, you might have more, whatever you have. The most important thing is we all have 24 hours. And let me tell you, what you will do with your time and how you plan your day, not for your exams, will decide your life. Will decide your life. Learn to say no. Learn to say no. Can I ask you something? How much time do you think you spend on your mobile device? Of course, now you're studying all the time, of course, which at least your parents think that you're studying all the time. But let me ask you, how much time do you spend in front of the screen? Quick, quick question. Chat, give me an answer. How much time do you think you spend on your devices? Quickly, including your studies and leisure and Instagram and YouTube and everything put together and games and whatever. How much time do you spend a day on in front of the screen? Give me a quick answer on chat, please. Let me just take a look at it. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's gone silent. Now you don't want to give me any answers. As long as the answers are about Michael Phelps and all that, there are so many answers. But when it comes to you, you don't want to give me any answer. How much time do you spend in front of the screen? The screen. Y'all are very smart. You can reply to me. You can chat privately also, just for me to get a sense of how much time you spend. Okay, you guys are very smart. You guys are very, very smart. You will not give me even a sense of it, so that nobody leaks the time that you spend on in front of the computer. How much time do you? I just realized that I'm not your age. Okay, I'm a working person. I realized that I spend a lot of time in front of the screen. Of course, work is there. We have all the Zoom meetings that we need to do. But apart from that, there is so much of time that we spend on the screen. And let me tell you, you need to identify your time killers. You need to identify your time killers. And I can give it to you in writing that today the biggest time killer for all of us is our mobile device. There is no doubt about it. Let us accept it. This is the truth. And even if there are parents on this, I'm telling you, even for the parents, this is not only for the kids, this is for the parents also, right? This message is for parents don't look at the kids and say it's for you. This is for you also. This is for the parents as well, right? We spend so much of time in front of the screen. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you this. The attitude in which you are going to discipline yourself to handle your media consumption is going to define your future. Okay, take it from me. How you're going to discipline yourself as far as media consumption is concerned is going to define your future. After lockdown happened, after this COVID situation, you had every person possibly using the mobile phone maybe double or triple the amount of time that they used to spend on before, right? Now they're spending so much of time in front of the mobile device. Let me tell you, your your pattern of consumption of mobile data or media is going to define your future. Another 5 years from now, okay, another 5 years from now, where you are and where you could be is going to be totally defined and decided by your media consumption. And I want you to don't live in a fool's paradise. Don't live in a fool's paradise. If you are going to just consume yourself with all the stuff, and let me tell you, okay, let me tell you, this is one of the most powerful devices that has happened to mankind in the recent past. But this is also the greatest trap that the enemy is using to trap youngsters and old people and me. Okay, and if we do not have authority And if we don't discipline ourselves as far as this thing is concerned, your future is going to hang by this one thing. And I want to encourage you, young people. Exams will come and go, okay? Maybe you think that's your biggest problem, but that's not your biggest problem. Learn to discipline and maximize your time. Identify your time killers. You can look at your iPhone or your Android device, and it'll give you your daily consumption of data. It'll give you how much time you're spending in front of the phone. And you need to learn how to maximize your time by reducing the time in front of the screen. And nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to do it, because your future is going to depend on how you're going to use your time as far as media is concerned. The greatest differentiator, earlier days when we grew up, okay, I mean, it's not too long ago. Okay, every time I say when we grew up, don't think that I'm one appachan who was, who lived like 1 century back and all that. I'm just few years ahead of you, that's it. But when we grew up, the differentiator between children could have been so many things, like access to knowledge, because there was no Google, there was no internet, all those things were not there when we were in school, right? And access to knowledge was the differentiator. So if anybody had more books to read, they would have an unfair advantage. Today there is no advantage like that. Any data, any stuff, that resource that you need is available on Google. You can check it. But you know what's going to make the difference? The only thing that's going to make a difference is how you would discipline yourself as far as media consumption is concerned. A young person who would discipline himself to consume the right amount of media and not get distracted is going to have a huge advantage. And let me tell you, see, some of you want to be good singers, or you want to be a good drummer. Being a good drummer doesn't mean you spend 10 hours watching on YouTube other drummers. It's not going to make you a good drummer. Take it from me. There are a lot of people who think they're going to watch 10 hours of drumming videos and become a good drummer. It's never going to happen. If you want to be a good drummer, switch off that phone and go drum and practice. That's how you're going to become a good drummer. Of course, you can take lessons on YouTube, you can do all of that. But if you do not control your media consumption, young friends, let me tell you, this is going to define your future. Are you going to are you going to live your life spending time in front of the on the computer, or are you going to do something with your life? uh, there's a lot of things that I would like to share here, but our time is kind of flying, so let me quickly go. And don't wait until tomorrow, okay? In Malayalam, we say nala nala neela neela. When are you going to exercise? Tomorrow morning onwards. When are you going to discipline? Tomorrow morning onwards. When are you going to study? Tomorrow. Nale agate. And tomorrow never comes, like the James Bond movie. It never comes. Because every day you keep on saying that we will do it tomorrow. Bad time management is an enemy of excellence. Let me tell you, I need to move a little faster. But let me tell you, I shared with you, uh, you know, something which is very interesting. Let me share with you very quickly. Many a times, like I told you about the Alfa Romeo, we are not willing to give our best. We are willing to give only our second best. In Malayalam we say itrayaka madi. Once we write, we as Malayali students know, if your parents ask you, once your exam starts, they ask you, പരീക്ഷ എങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു മോളെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പരീക്ഷ എങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു മോനെ, what is the answer you will give them? Without writing the exam itself, you tell me what is the answer you will give them. Now you've not written the exam, but without writing it itself, I will tell you what the answer you will give them. Your answer will be കുഴപ്പമില്ലായിരുന്നു. Correct, no? Yeah. Without writing the exam only, I am telling you the answer. The standard answer would be കുഴപ്പമില്ലായിരുന്നു. Means what? Kind of okay. Mediocrity. A big enemy of excellence is mediocrity. I am not willing to give my best. എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലും അഡ്ജസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്ത് മുന്നോട്ട് പോകണം, അത്രമാത്രം. Mediocrity is an enemy of excellence. Just to give you a little interesting thing, let me read this for you. If 99% was good enough, okay, this is something I got from Google. If 99.9% was good enough, for us 99.9 and all is too good. നമുക്കാണെങ്കിൽ ഒരു 50% കിട്ടിയ, if 99.9% was good enough, what will happen? 22,000 checks will be deducted from the wrong bank accounts in the next 60 minutes. If you are saying 99.9% accuracy madi ennu paranjal, in the next 1 hour, 22,000 checks will get deducted from the wrong bank account. Okay. 1314 phone calls will be misplaced every minute. Means wrong call ആയിരിക്കും വിളിക്കുന്നതെല്ലാം. നമ്മൾ ഒരു നമ്പർ ഡയൽ ചെയ്യും, it will go somewhere else. Okay. There will be 268,000 defective tires shipped this year. What is the accuracy? 99.9, not 50-60%, no, 99.9% accuracy. 2 plane landings in Chicago will be unsafe every single day. Can you imagine? Chicago airport is 99.9% accurate in the Paranal. You know what it means? That 2 planes every day will crash. Would you plan to land in Chicago airport? Okay, 99.9% accuracy is enough. Next time onwards, we will land only in Chicago. Will you do that? You will never do that. Why? Because 2 planes are going to be unsafe. 20,000 incorrect drug prescriptions will be written in the next 12 months. We buy the medicine for headache, we get a prescription for heart attack. Can you imagine? But the accuracy is 99.9. Don't forget that. 99.9% accuracy. 114,000 pairs of shoes will be mismatched. Okay, on left it will be red shoe, on right will be black shoe. Yeah, today it's a style. Today I know that all you young people, my son was wearing two different kinds of socks on his legs. I asked him, where's the other pair? He said, that's the fashion now, don't bother. He's only 5 years. I can't believe 2 kinds of socks on 2 legs. If I did something like that, my dad would have just given me one solid back and poi marada nu parnane. And today, for them to wear 2 different socks is a style. But what I'm trying to say is 99.9% accuracy would have ensured that you would have got 2 different pairs shipped together. And just imagine, 12 babies will be given to the wrong parents every day. You go to the hospital, you deliver, and you will come back with somebody else's baby if the hospital has 99.9% accuracy. What am I trying to tell you? We are not willing to accept 99.9% accuracy in these cases, but in our own lives, we are willing to give only 50% of the potential God has given us. Mediocrity is the enemy of excellence. Idu madi, itre madi. Oh, adikul endo jeyana. That is I'm not saying that we all need to become first, but we need to give our best. First, we need to give our best. Coming first is a secondary thing, but we need to learn what it means to give our best. Can you imagine every day you wake up and give your best into what God has given you? You might not become first rank, but that will bring so much of purpose in the way you live your life. But let me tell you, you need to learn to give attention to detail, and learn to say no. You don't have to say yes to everything that comes your way. You don't have to say yes to every friend request that comes your way. You don't have to say yes to every program that comes on TV. You don't have to say yes to every phone call that comes your way. Learn to say no, because your ability to say no to smaller things decides your ability to say yes to greater things. Even as you are a follower of Jesus Christ, you and I need to learn to say no to the smaller dross of things. Some of them might not be wrong, but just because those are things that weigh me down, bring me down, if I am willing to say no to those things, I can say yes to the greater things of God. Let me also tell you this. Everything starts small, okay? Don't think that if you want to be a doctor, becoming a doctor happens overnight. Everything starts small. You want to be a writer, you want to be a singer, you want to be a minister, you want to be a pastor, whatever it is that you want to be, everything starts small. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing happens overnight. That's why the Bible says, do not despise the day of small beginnings. If you are faithful in the small things God has given you, over time, God will bless the little that you have and make it much. Today, I want you to decide, I will be faithful in the little things that God has given me. I'm not going to wait for that big thing. Most of the young people are waiting for the big things to happen. But give attention to the detail, because there is a God who sees it. Michelangelo was doing this painting on a ceiling, right? He was doing this huge painting on ceilings. Michelangelo is one of the finest artists that ever lived. And he was drawing this huge cathedral ceiling. He was having this massive painting on the ceiling. And while he was doing the small painting, on one of the corners of the ceiling, there was this particular sculpture that was arching upwards. And he was trying to draw the top of the ceiling, right? The top of the ceiling. So when you look from down, you can't see that. And Michelangelo was taking so much of pains to draw that detail on the curve of that sculptor, which is on the ceiling. So someone walked by and said, "Hey, Michael, why are you taking so much of effort to paint that one side of it? That detail is not visible from here. When I look at it, I'm not able to see that detail. Why are you taking so much of pains to draw that?" And then he replied in a classic reply. This is what Michelangelo said. He said, "Hey, you might not be able to see it, but God who is above is able to see that little detail that I draw." What am I trying to tell you, young friends? Every small activity of yours and mine is tracked by God, even when nobody else sees it. You know what God rewards? That activity that you do when no one else is seeing, when no one else is watching. If you can be faithful, God will reward you. It's a biblical principle. It's a biblical principle that who has been faithful with little will be given with much. Don't try to become the superstar overnight. That's not how God works. You be faithful in the little God has given you today. It starts with you, with the little that you have, and God will multiply it if you can stay faithful. So the number 4 enemy of excellence is mediocrity. It's the mediocrity. Let me also tell you this. An excellent spirit is very rare. It's not easy to find an excellent spirit. Okay? Among all the people who came from Jerusalem, there was only one Daniel. There were no 100 Daniels. There's only one Daniel. But if you are willing to be that excellent person, don't look to your left or to your right. Don't say if he is excellent. Um, I will, I will tell you a story, very interesting story from my school days. Okay, but let me before that, let me share with you. An excellent spirit will allow you to grow in a hostile environment. Don't wait for the environment to become right. ഈ കോവിഡ് എല്ലാം കഴിഞ്ഞ് എല്ലാം സമാധാനമായി കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ട് ഞാൻ എല്ലാം ചെയ്യാം. No, that's not how it's going to work. If you are going to have an excellent spirit, it doesn't matter what your environment is. It'll allow you to grow in a hostile environment. Even when nothing else is working out for other people, it'll work for you if you are willing to have an excellent spirit. Okay, all the doors that are getting shut for other people, the doors will open for you if you are willing to have an excellent spirit like Daniel. And I can tell you this: an excellent spirit will create opportunities for you that will pass others by. Okay, but let me tell you this. Let me tell you this: an excellent spirit is very rare. It's very rare to have. It's not easy to have an excellent spirit. It's very, very difficult and rare to have, because we all, like, it's like the verse which says misery loves company. When we were in school, I'll give you, I studied in Marthoma residential school, which is close to my house, okay, in Tiruvalla. And during that time, that school was full of padipist. You know what a padipist is? A padipist means a person who studies really well, all nerd category. And most of my friends were fantastic as far as academics is concerned. They all of them used to crack IITs and NITs, and I mean, you name it, bits, and all the top guys used to be in my class. So you can imagine, right? If one person is 99%, 98%. But when we were in 7th, 8th standard and all that, there was this particular student. His name is Devaraj. He's also a follower of Jesus Christ. Brilliant guy. He's Einstein level. So now he's doing his double PhD in a university in UK, which gives admission to only 7 people every 2 years. So you can imagine the level of his brain, right? The teachers themselves knew that he was Einstein, because teachers could not teach him. He would teach the teachers. That kind of problem he had. He's a massive, unbelievable guy. So when we were in school, there was this habit by which after the examination, the teacher would have the answer sheets in front of her. And once it's corrected, she would call out the name and also the marks. I don't know if it happens in your class, but in our class, that's how it is. So, for example, if it's Cherian George, they'll call Cherian George and they'll say 80 out of 100. Okay, 80 out of 100. So they'll shout after a while, because it became a little embarrassing for few students. We said, teacher, ഇത് പറയണ്ട, മാർക്ക് പറയണ്ട, പേര് വിളിച്ചിട്ട് മാർക്ക് ഒന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ മതി. Just give it to us. We will look at the paper and we will decide, and we will understand. Okay. So then they stopped announcing the marks. So what happens is, the teacher will call a name and we'll go marching forward and we'll take the paper. And when we take the paper and we come back, okay, all the students will be asking us, etra gitti, etra gitti. This is the standard thing. So every person who will go, he'll carry the mark sheet, and he'll ask, how much, how much? Means they're so eager to know what the other person has, right? So the teacher will call Cherian George, then say 70 out of 100. Okay. Then they'll say Eldos 68 out of 100. Then another person will come 74 out of 100. So every time we come and we take a piece of paper and go back, they'll ask etra gitti. So if we say 70 out of 100, they'll say okay, okay, okay. Then they'll say Eldos, how much? 68 out of 100. Okay, okay. Another person will come 75. Okay, okay. Then another name will be called Devaraj G. Okay. The moment Devaraj comes and picks his paper, they'll ask, etra gitti. Very sarcastically we'll ask etra gitti. And then as usual, he'll be 98 out of 100 and all that. Okay. 98. And now after this class gets over, you will see a very interesting phenomenon. You know what that interesting phenomenon is? During recess time, during break time, you will see all the 68 to 80 gang, no? All the guys who got 68 to 80, that gang will be standing in one corner of the room having a great time, laughing and joking and cracking and having a great time. And on the other side of the room, you'll have one guy standing alone. His name is Devaraj Ji. Why is that happen? Why does that happen? Because misery loves company. Mediocrity is rare. You will have so many friends. You also want to have only 68 out of 100. I mean, see, this is not a marks issue. Okay, don't try to generalize it. Marks is all secondary. Anything you want to do with life, with excellence, in life with excellence, let me tell you, you will not have many friends. Even if you want to stand up for Jesus, you will have to stand up alone. Let me tell you that. You're not going to have too much of company. Daniel, when everyone is bowing in front of the king, there was one man who stood up. Why? Because he had an excellent spirit. You want to follow Christ, you need to be rare. You can't be part of the crowd. You want to have an excellent spirit, you have to be rare. The company, we all like to be part of the majority, don't we? We all like to be part of the majority. We like to say, okay, Lord, I also want to be in majority. That's why people say, if you vote for us, you will be part of the majority. Everybody wants to be part of the majority. But when you write your civil service examination, does anybody say, I also want to be part of the majority when the results come? There are 10 lakh people, 1 million people who write the civil services exam. How many people get? 1,000 people get. 700 people to be precise. So when the results come, will you say, I also want to be part of the majority? If you are going to be part of the majority, you will not pass the civil services exam. That's as simple as that. That's why even when you want to follow Christ, that's why Jesus said, broad is the way that leads to destruction, but narrow is the way that leads to life. You want to have an excellent spirit in spite of all the hostile environments, in spite of your inabilities, in spite of all your disadvantages. God will allow you to rise to the top if you can build an excellent spirit. So let me recap before I stop. Okay, what does it mean to have an excellent spirit? Number one, I need to tell myself that I will not have a sense of entitlement. I'm not entitled to anything. I will go the extra mile. I will go the extra mile. I will never say it's not my job. I'm going to follow the Rebecca principle. Number two, I need to remove every destructive habit in my life that stands against my excellence. It's a life God has given you. And the thing that is going to destroy you is that habit that you're going to have. Kill those habits before it kills you. Kill those habits before it kills you. There is a God who's willing to give you a second chance. Number three, time management, extremely important. You should have a plan. The way you need to plan your day should be extremely clear. There is no space for binge watching your Netflix or whatever it is. You have to be extremely clear on how you plan your time. And number four, it's not enough for us to give our 99.9. We have to give it all. You don't have to be first, but you need to give your best. But let me stop by giving you uh, uh, the rest of the Alfa Romeo fictitious story. Okay, that was reality. The first thing that I shared with you was real stuff. Now I'm going to give you something to imagine with me. Now you need to really, really imagine with me. Okay, before I close, I want to ask you this question. Now just imagine I buy a Alfa Romeo and bring it to my place in Tiruvalla. Okay, I'm going to bring it to Tiruvalla. Uh, Tiruvalla, for those of you who don't know, it's actually called the capital of the world. And if you want to visit us, we are always here. But Tiruvalla is the place where we live. Okay, the only problem is we don't have great roads where you can ride something like this. But otherwise, it's a nice place to live. Now just imagine I bring this Alfa Romeo to Tiruvalla and I park it in my garage. Okay, and I realized that the roads are not great, so I can't take my car out. I can't take my car too much. Can't do anything. So after a while, my wife comes and tells me, "Hey, you know what? Uh, you can't take your car. The car is lying there. Uh, what are you going to do with the car?" And because it's locked down, my wife comes and tells me, "I have an idea. Let's do something." Anyway, because of lockdown, people are doing organic farming and things like that. Why don't we do some chicken farming, right? Let's have some chicken and let's just have those chicken. Then I tell her, there's a problem. If you're going to have chicken, we're going to do kodi valartal and all of that. It's not going to be easy. We need to build a coop. Then we need to have like good temperature control for the chickens and all of that. So then she tells me, hey, you know what we'll do? Anyway, your Alfa Romeo is there lying without any purpose. So let's do one thing. Let's raise the chicken inside the Alfa Romeo. I said, yeah, not a bad idea, right? Let's have the let's open up the doors, and so we decided to use the Alfa Romeo to raise our chickens, and the chickens are very happy. When it gets very warm, we just switch on the climate controlled air conditioner, and the chickens are really happy. And when the chickens are bored, what we do is we play some good music on the 7 speaker Bose system that comes as standard along with the Alfa Romeo, and the chickens are having great time. And I have a central locking system. One flip of a button, the boot opens, and every time the chicken like lays eggs, I just kind of flick it up and I take my eggs, and chickens are happy. I am happy. We're all happy. We're having a great time with the Alfa Romeo. Okay. Now imagine. Now from Germany or Austria, the Alfa Romeo chief design engineer happens to come to Tiruvalla. Okay. I mean, it can happen, right? Tiruvalla being Tiruvalla, you never know. So just imagine he comes for whatever reasons he comes to Tiruvalla, and while he's passing by my house, he looks and he sees an Alfa Romeo, a site that he didn't see at all in India. He's never seen an Alfa Romeo in India, and all of a sudden he sees an Alfa Romeo in Tiruvalla, and he gets so excited, right? It's the car that he designed. So he jumps and he comes and he rings the bell, and he comes down, and he's so excited. He's so excited. He wants to know. He wants to meet the owner of the Alfa Romeo in Tiruvalla. But as he comes closer to the car, he notices something. It's not humans inside the Alfa Romeo, but it's full of chickens, right? And he doesn't know what to make of it. So he comes and he rings the bell, and his smile kind of slowly fades away. And he calls me and he says, "Is this your car?" I said, "Yeah, it's my car." And then with a sense of question, he kind of asks me, "But why are chickens inside the car?" And I tell him, "See, the roads are not all that great. We couldn't find a better way of using the Alfa Romeo, so we just thought we'll rear some chickens, and chickens are very happy, and I'm getting good eggs out of the chickens, and the chickens are not dying very quickly." And then he doesn't know what to do, right? He, on one side, he wants to thrash me. He wants to just take a brick and hit me with it. And he's like, "But the car," and I'm like, "Yeah, what about the car?" "No, that's an Alfa Romeo." I say, "Yeah, it's an Alfa Romeo. So what?" So I tell him, "See, hey, hello, it's my car, it's my house, it's my chicken, and I do what I want with it, right?" So he knows that it's my car, he knows it's my chicken, and he knows it's Tiruvalla. He better not mess with me, right? So he goes out of the house, and he's very, very upset. He's very, very upset. He's literally crying inside. And as he takes his flight back to Germany from Nedumacheri, you know what is going on in his mind? I'll tell you what is going on in his mind. This is what is going on in his mind. He said, "Why in the world did I design an Alfa Romeo? വല്ലവർക്കും കോഴിയെ വളർത്താൻ വേണ്ടിയാണോ ഞാൻ ആൽഫ റോമിയോ എന്റെ കഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട് ഡിസൈൻ ചെയ്തത്? And his mind is like, why did I bother to design that? But let me ask you, dear friends, young friends, what was the Alfa Romeo made for? The Alfa Romeo was made for it to zoom on the German highways. And when it zooms on the German highways, when Roman drives it, you know what the designer of Alfa Romeo would say? That is what it was created for. It puts a smile on Roman's face and it puts a smile on the designer's face. Do you know why you and I were created by the great designer? I'll tell you why you and I were created for the great by the great designer. In Isaiah 43:7 it says, "Bring to me all the people who are mine, who I made for my glory, whom I formed and made." You know why you exist? Do you know why I exist? We have only one purpose, and that is to bring a smile on the face of our God. And every time I utilize everything that God has given me to the full ability, for the full ability, for the with the full potential, you know what God is saying? That is exactly why I created him. When he's using his talents for my glory, that is why I created him. And that's how I'm able to put a smile on God's face. You know where your greatest joy would be? Your greatest joy would be when you fulfill God's purpose for your life. And for that, you have to have a spirit of excellence. Do not, do not allow any of these destructive things to come in the way of your excellence. God has great plans for you, dear young. If there is someone who thinks that my life is a waste, I have no purpose, I have no focus, I don't even know why I'm living, let me tell you, if you would just turn to the one who designed you, he would give you a great purpose. You can go from this meeting excited, not bored, but excited, knowing that God has a plan for your life. And every time you're willing to put your everything, your 100% for the excellence, for towards excellence, God is being pleased. You are putting a smile on his face. So let me tell you one thing, and I'll close with this. You were not created for Kodi Valarthal. I mean, of course, if you want to do Kodi Valarthal, you do that. But what I'm trying to say is, do not step down to utilizing your life for something of this world and die like Michael Jackson crying more milk, but die knowing very well that you fulfilled God's purpose for your life. God's purpose is much more greater than your examination. It's much more greater than anything that you can see. It's much bigger than what you can imagine. But if you could just place your hands in the hands of God, you have no idea what God can do through you and what God can do with your life. That's my testimony. And let me tell you, young people, before I close, God has a great plan for your life. Do not waste it pursuing small pleasures. Do not waste it. Commit your life into the hands of God. Pursue excellence, and He will raise you up in due time. Thank you so much for your patient listening. I know I exceeded my time, but may God bless you. May God enable you to do well in the coming days, but most importantly, live for His glory. And that's the most purposeful life that you can live. Thank you.